Welcome to Married to the Boss.
It's week 2, and this week we're going to be discussing the important topics when couples decide to combine their work and their personal life together. So one of the things that we talked about off and on is that couples don't realize how difficult it is to work together. And anybody that's never started a business or anybody that's never owned a business, perhaps maybe they just started but they owned it, doesn't matter, not to get granular, they don't really realize how difficult it is to stay in business. So being an entrepreneur is easy, making that decision, but what's difficult is staying in business, because statistically 90% of startups fail. So in order to stay afloat and stay in the 10 percentile, the top 10 percentile that actually stay in business, it's important to be aware of some of the pitfalls and actually avoid them by being prepared and planning for that. So this week we're going to touch on those things. And we are going to dive in right away. So let's dive in.
Okay. I'll kick it off if that's okay with you.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Perfect. So when we say pitfalls, they're unlimited pitfalls. So think about it like this. You have a great idea and you think it's worth gold. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that anybody else thinks that your idea is as good as you think it is. That is the biggest problem with most people starting a business, is that their idea is their idea, and it does not mean that it's that exciting to the world. So, but ideas are good. You got to start somewhere. So if you joined us in last week's podcast, we talked about the 3 C's: commitment, compromise, and communication. And that's where this really begins, because when you say, okay, let's get down and dirty and let's start a business, you got to start somewhere. So where do you start? And so there's certain things that come to your mind immediately. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the first and foremost is always going to be money. It's not even going to be, can we work together? Mm-hmm. It's going to be, do we have the resources to start this business? Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay. So then when you break that down, which you could almost do the next 30 minutes on breaking down money. Mm-hmm. But you got to think about your savings. You got to think about credit cards. You got to think about life insurance policies. You got to think about second and third mortgage. You got to think about asking friends and family for money. You got to think about all that when you're talking about building a business.
Unless they just won the lottery.
Unless you got lucky, and that hasn't happened to us yet. No. But I wish it would have.
Yeah.
So money is so essential, and it's got to be long term. Long term doesn't mean 5 years or 10 years, but long term, mm-hmm. you better have enough money for 12 months. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been through it a few times, and enough to know that money is going to go very fast. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's important. The next thing is skill set. I mean, you have to define each other's skill set. Mm-hmm. Okay, you have yours, mm-hmm. I have mine, and that needs to be set up front as well, because you could have all the money, and investors will tell you they don't like giving you all the money up front, but you could have all the money in the world, mm-hmm. but if the management or the skill set is not right, there is going to be problems, not only in the company but in the relationship. Mm-hmm. You agree again?
Oh my gosh, yes, totally.
I love it when you agree. And you also don't want to step on each other's toes. So, if this person does sales and marketing and this person does accounting and software, it's really, really clear. But if the couple says, well, I'm good at marketing. Well, I'm good at marketing. Well, yeah, but I'm better at sales. But I'm still good at marketing. You're just stop right there, and
it's going to be a tug of war.
Go back into the corporate world. Mm-hmm. And then there's, to me, which is really important, is a checklist. We started out with a checklist. Actually, you start out with a checklist and said, we need to do this, and this. And then you got to really figure out who's going to do what in that checklist. Okay, so and there's things that right out of the gate that you got to really jump into, such as, are you a C, an S, or an LLC company? Are you registered with a state? Did you apply for your FEIN? Who's going to be the president? Who's going to be the secretary? And last but not least, and it may not sound important, or it might be the last thing you think about, but it should be right up there in the top 5, is did you secure a URL address that's going to be really easy for you to promote and
now,
market
when you say
your
URL,
business?
excuse me, there might be people out there that don't know what that is.
Okay, your URL, just really simple, is your website domain name. So 1 word's great, 2 words is good. The more words you get, the more challenging it can be, and you always want to try to fit into.
It might be a little bit too much information for some people who are listening, don't you think?
You want to cut that out?
No, we don't have to cut it. No, I was just I wanted to make sure, because that's another subject altogether.
Yeah, that's a whole new one. But you got to get that secured in that time frame, because if you can't get it, then it makes it more challenging to, the next step is going to be going into building a business plan. Yeah. So you might want to touch on those steps that we actually followed through with when we built a few companies ago, in regards to, I do this, you do that. And
Oh yeah, the business plan is another topic in and of itself. But the 2 things that I think that I had in my mind that kind of coincide with what you're saying is, on the money side, you have to have money or cash in this case in order to hire the people. You mentioned the skill set. So you have to have money in order to hire people, and you have to have money in order to build the product or the service. So you can't do business without money. And obviously, once you get the money to do the business, you have to continue growing the business, or growing the cash flow, as we would call it. The other thing also is, when you do have the money, you want to make sure you have money to bring in good quality people, because the caliber of your staff is going to determine the quality or the output of your product or the output of your service. So, which that in it of itself is going to parlay into good or average or poor customer service. So your people are important, but in order to have the right people, you have to be able to pay them, because good people are not, they don't come cheap. And naturally, there's other strategies that you can do to get to that point, but that's another subject that we're going to touch on in some future broadcast. But for now, that's just a high level. And the last thing is the timing of it also, is when, not just what to do when you go into business, but also when to go into business, right? Mm-hmm. Because most of the businesses that we have done, we've always, for whatever reason, whether it's been by fate or just dumb luck, we've always started during a recession or when the economy has been down. Now, that may be smart or not, but the point is that could be
for us.
It's debatable, but yeah, it's worked for us. We just happened to get lucky, and our model worked. It was a good model for the down economy. But we get that because we actually did the point that you mentioned regarding a business plan. Every company that we've ever started, we've always have had a business plan. And the importance of that business plan is it dictates the vision of the company, and it also allows both parties, both spouses, in this case the co-entrepreneurs, to remain on the same page and go after the same goal. And that also in and of itself works as the checklist model that you referred to.
Absolutely. And I think just a point that you said a word that sticks out like crazy, and that is the word luck. There is so much luck involved in building a business that it's not talked about enough. I mean, you can have so many years of experience and you can have a lot of money, but timing and luck is a part of you building a business. And when you brought up about recession, there's not too many people out there that would say, let's start a business in a recession. But there are reasons why certain businesses should, in our case, should be started in a recession. And not to get into those, that could be a whole different podcast, which I think would be entertaining in itself.
Yeah, we become experts in starting businesses during a recession,
right?
That's for sure.
Right. How many people say we got to wait until everything, taxes are down, everything else, let's start a business, and that's not really the time in a lot of cases. So, but when you bring up business plan, to touch on that briefly, your business plan is your roadmap. You have to have a business plan. And, there's a lot of companies out there, and I've worked with a number of them that just hate to hear those two words, business plan. They don't want to put the time into it. They don't even know what to put into it. They don't know who to allocate towards it. I mean, all kinds of excuses of not coming up with a business plan, in addition to they don't want to keep it current.
Right.
Right. So, but business plans do something to you, especially as entrepreneurs. Okay. So I want to touch on that. It really helps you become intimate in your idea. I mean, you think you know your idea, but wait till you put it down. Old school is on paper, new school is in a computer. But wait till you put that in words and you see what you are building. Mm-hmm. And then after that intimacy of going, wow, this is really good. Then all of a sudden that next word comes in called passion. And then you're thinking, wow, this is great. I can't wait to tell my friends, my family. I can't wait to get this company going. I'm so excited. All that stuff happens.
But the one thing that's key with the business plan,
know what you're going to say. Here it goes.
Is that the business plan forces you to do some research. It forces you to do the market research. It forces you to think, is this a product or service that has an audience out there? So it makes you separate yourself from the personal bias and go out and find out, can I make money off this product and can I make money off this service? Obviously, you can't just arbitrarily ask yourself that question because you're going to say to yourself, oh, sure, I can. But no, you haven't, right? You have to find out if there's people out there that are willing and able, not just willing, but able to pay for that product or pay for that service that you are setting out to provide. So that's why every business needs a business plan, because it forces you to think like that. And just, on a tagline to that is that what I think it's important to know is it's going to push you. You ever been pushed in school or pushed in sports? It's going to push you to ask yourself a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. It's going to push you to ask your spouse questions and yourself. And those questions are, there's so many that you could throw out there that you're going to have to ask yourself and ask your partner. Yeah. And, do we really have a good chance of building a successful company? Right. I mean, kind of common sense question, but it forces you to get on the same page.
But it's a fair question: is do we have a chance? Yeah, a chance. Remember what I might have said earlier: 90% fail. Yes. So, what is the chance of you being successful? Right. Right. Is this the right time? It's great time. Economy's great. Mm-hmm. Okay. We just said earlier that maybe recession would be better, and then. This is the big question. You've got to really get this into your mind. we've run into too many businesses, people that have started a business, that want to start a business, and they work 9 to 5. Let's really make this real clear. Yeah. That can't happen. Right. If you think that you're going to wake up at 8 and start work at 9 and shut down at 5 and start a business, just don't build a business. I mean, I'm trying to save you money right now. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. Well, no, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood what you just said. Now, you said when you are starting a business, working 9 to 5 doesn't work, or do you keep your 9 to 5 job and start a business? No. I'm not saying your 9 to 5 job. It's tough to start a business when you're working 9 to 5. Yeah, because we've done that. We've done that. I hate to say it's not possible, but you better. A lot of new businesses start out that way. We started out that way. Yeah, we did start out that way a long time ago. And it depends on what your business is. It depends what your business model is. And it also depends on how financially fit you are at the time. Sure. Remember, we started out. We know what it's like to be on a bootstrapping it, and to be on a
during budget.
Yep.
So when we did start out, we had to keep our daytime jobs. Remember that?
We did.
So we know, we've been there. We know.
But it's painful.
It is very painful.
It wears on. It's not fair to the company, and it wears on the relationship.
Correct. And you were also, I think you were going to touch on is when you are ready to jump full time into your endeavor.
Yep.
Thinking that you can work from 9 to 5.
Yep.
That's what's not going to work. Right.
No way. You better be prepared for 16, 17, 18 hours a day, and that's not Monday through Friday. So, get it in your mind that for 12 months, that if you want to build a successful business, understand the difference between building a business and building a successful business. You have to be prepared to put in serious hours.
Right.
So, and the only other point that I want to make on a business plan is that you don't need to write a huge business plan. You can keep it really short and sweet. The days of hundreds and hundreds of pages for business, that's behind us.
Our
first business plan was 62 plus pages of.
We're not proud of that now because that's, in today's standards, that's too much. Right.
I mean, if you're doing a 10 to a 12 page business plan, that's awesome. That's really what your template that you're working from. But again, you keep it simple, but it keeps you in a disciplined. It keeps you in disciplined timelines. It keeps your roadmap in order. It keeps you communicating with each other. Do we need to modify this, tweak this? That business plan is going to be eventually your report card.
Right.
And that's I can't stress enough how important that part is. That we call this fools rush in because there are so many people that jump into a business and say, "Come on, how hard can it be?" I've heard this. I think I say thousands of times, but I've heard it hundreds of times, and they do not know what they are talking about. We're trying to save you time and frustration here to say, stay with the basics, and a business plan is your basics.
Right. No, and one thing I just want to not necessarily correct our statement, but I just wanted to qualify our statement in regards to the number of pages for a business plan. The average business plan isn't going to require 100 pages. The average business plan for an average business should be anywhere between 10 to 25 pages. You get a much longer business plan if your business is requires more. Let's say I'm trying to think of.
I would say to keep it simple is if you're dealing with investors,
more complicated, investors,
you're going to have to have a bigger business plan.
The business structure itself is more complicated. You're planning on selling millions and millions of shares. You're going to have a very very complex
exit strategy in 3 years.
Logistical system where the product or service begins and it ends and it touches the customer, goes through many iterations and cycles. So I was just trying to I didn't want anybody to write a note and say, "Oh, you guys are full of it." Anyways, we're trying.
We are full of it. I mean, we can assure you we're full of it. But what we're trying to do.
I just wanted to qualify the statement that we think that we're talking to entrepreneurs who are going to have a simplified business model.
Yeah, I mean. It is simple. It's just a matter of time. And you know what?
And you do have to update it every year.
You do. And listen, you all have internet today. It's nothing to get a template and nothing to get samples and to get ideas. That's easy stuff to do.
And two of the best places to get those templates or samples or ideas is irs.gov.
Yep.
So you kind of kill two birds with one stone there. And also the sba.gov.
Yep.
Free information, free templates, free advice.
SBA IRS.gov. You go there and you're going to find out more information to help you build your business. But with all this being said, it sounds like, geez, listen to these guys, honey, I don't know if we want to build a business. No. You know what? We wouldn't be in business today if we didn't accept the challenge and want to get away from the corporate, I'm going to try to be nice here, but the corporate environment of not knowing what you're going to walk into the next day and who you're going to have to deal with. Building a business is a huge accomplishment. It's a great, great feeling. and you can be successful. And you don't have to be in the United States to be successful, but it does help that you're in the good USA. You have a lot of resources available to you. The thing is that it really comes down to what we're talking about here between money, resources, checklists. Be organized, have your stuff together, communicate,
do
all
your
those
homework.
things. Homework
do your
is
homework.
so important. And you know, if you've got kids, you got young kids, you got to think about that.
Right.
Because you got to give your kids time. You know, you don't take away and put in your business to say, you know, we're not going to spend time with the kids.
No, because family is first.
You got to keep family first. That's actually crucial.
So to close up our session, because we are almost out of time here.
Okay.
To summarize our talking points, we want to make sure that they have the right information in order to be successful and be part of the 10% group that actually becomes successful and maintains their business. The door is open. So money, timing, and planning or checklist via a business plan. And the business plan helps not only to articulate the goals and the objectives of the business, it helps to also articulate who's doing what and when. Describe who's doing like marketing, sales, all of that stuff. And it also identifies the risk. Exit strategy, you mentioned exit strategy, that's important also. You have to also plan for the business. Whether even if you're planning on being around for a long time, you still need to plan for that, and you touch on that you go back and revisit that business plan once a year. And most important, it should be simple. It should be something that you should be able to pass back and forth between the two of you, and also as you grow, if you have an accountant, if you have a legal counsel, all of these people should be able to look at the business plan and not be confused as to why you're in business.
And actually what you do is after you write your business plan, you show it to a family member or a friend, and let them give you feedback.
Somebody you can confide in.
Yeah, somebody you can trust. They're going to give you honest feedback.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
I think it's good.
Okay. We're going to elaborate on this probably a little bit more in our next podcast. So we hope that
in a future podcast.
Oh, in a future podcast. Yeah. I mean, the future could be 10 years from now, but we're going to try to keep things as current as possible.
Yeah. Well, you know, you don't say so much about
I know you can.
But anyway, so just want to say thank you for joining us.
Yep. Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.
That's this week's episode of Married to the Boss podcast.